Here we go again. This is a very nuanced topic inside of this community, so I want to address it myself. I want to go over why fake claiming in the community is toxic. Faking is when you make the choice to pretend to do something, to pretend to have something, or pretend to anything. This is something very prevalent in the mental health community, I'm pretty sure, where people tend to fake disorders a lot. I think people don't realize about the therian community is that people don't fake being a therian. In fact, there's a lot of people who aren't conscious of the fact that they're not real therians, therefore they are only misunderstood. I think this culture around fake claiming makes people less willing to explore their identities in fear of being prosecuted or other such things. And I think a lot of people don't realize that most of these people who are being called out for fake tend to just have more fluid identities that aren't similar to other people's. And I think this is very harmful and causes people to, then again, feel less willing to explore their identities in fear of being fake claimed. This is an issue because of a community that talks about how forgiving, caring they are, and because especially they don't fit into the mainstream of all things. They are more accepting to people who are considered weird and out of the norm, but then turn their backs to people who are deemed weirder than them, which is funny. Not actually funny, I'm being sarcastic. And then you can start to see why everything falls apart when it's very hypocritical when a community that claims to be loving ridicules others for being more weird than them or deemed out of the mainstream of their own community. Fake claiming is harmful, especially for something that has no limit to what they identify as, in terms of the only guidelines being you have to identify as an animal involuntarily that's not human. People don't seem to realize how fluid our identities actually are and refuse to see that. No, somebody isn't fake or whatever just because they're a physical therian. You are the one that's misinformed about who can be a therian and how expansive our identity really is. Physical therians do exist. And you can start to notice, again, how it falls apart because somebody could use the same information on you to call you a faker simply because you're misinformed of what the actual meaning of a therian is. You can't call people and say that they're fake for not knowing the meaning of a therian when you're the one who actually doesn't know. And then it's also in taking into consideration, you aren't faking, you're just misinformed. And then, again and again, you can see how this all comes together. It just creates an endless cycle. I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see someone claim to be what you are and something that's very important in your life and takes up most of it, or part of it, and then they're very misinformed about it, and they keep claiming that they are that when they actually don't know that they are not. I don't think a lot of people realize that these misinformed people also who are misinformed, obviously, tend to actually be therians, and they misinterpreted what the meaning was, but then they found out they were real therians. And this happens much more than people just giving up after they're misinformed. But now, due to fake claiming, people are so scared to actually explore their identities now, and they don't actually tend to see this finale. You're not doing any good by trying to get rid of people who are quote-unquote fake. You're scaring them into believing their identity can't be as fluid, or you're scaring them to actually find out the real meaning and actually ask themselves, are they a therian or not? We're not doing a good thing. Instead of fake claiming all these people, we should acknowledge that these people are actually misinformed, and a lot of the current community, is very misinformed due to what they're exposed on in current media of therianthropy. Or you could say that they don't do their research, therefore ignorant. But when these people are told things, or they are getting all their information from short form content, they think, oh, that's all there is to it, and then they start to use the label therian, and then they don't do more research because they think that's all they need. And after all this, it's fine to realize that you were misinformed. What's also bad is to continue being ignorant on the topic when you know you're not using the right terms for it. I'm going to use an example from another video I saw, which is by Therian Territory. If you saw somebody saying that they chose their stereotype, are they actually pretending to be a therian, or are they misinformed? 9 times out of 10, if they're discussing it like that, they are probably misinformed and not realizing that they are. And instead of calling them out for being fake, you should use that time to educate them instead. And when you take into consideration that faking and being misinformed are different things, you start to realize that misinformation isn't, or being misinformed isn't with ill intent. Now let's talk about people who are out of the binary of what a therian is, and then you call them a faker because they aren't what fits your definition of a therian. Let's use physical therians for an example. Something that's popularized by the current community today or on media of therianthropy is the fact that physical therians are real therians, even though this is ignorant. Physical therians founded our community, so you can't just exclude them even though they're the ones that founded them. And calling someone's identity invalid because it doesn't fit the binary of what you want it to be is also wrong. After all you know about this person's identity is that they're saying it on a screen. You don't know this person personally or anything like that. You also don't know how much more their identity goes in deeper. Also, yes, this isn't saying that fake therians don't exist. There's just such a little amount that they aren't actually a problem in the community. And do you want to know what? Voluntarily identifying as something or a non-human animal is still an alterhuman term. It's called funlinks. You aren't more righteous for trying to exclude someone out of the community just because they are misinformed or because the identity is much more fluid and expansive than you think. Fake claiming in communities like the mental health community, for example, like disorders, when people start faking, they are actively being harmed by this representation of their community. Claiming is something that can be done by a large expanded group of people or a professional that can actually tell if someone's faking rather than just being misinformed. Therianthropy is a self-identity, not a disorder that's professionally diagnosed by people. And with a community our size, we don't need to fake claim anyone unless they're actively harming our community with their fakeness. And especially, oh boy, can't wait to talk about this one, videos that call people out for being a fake therian. I was hoping I wouldn't get here today, but here we are. This is literally just bullying people. What do you think that says about our community when we start to call people names, try and call them out for simply being misinformed? For a community that claims to be so welcoming, this is not the type of look you want to have. You bully people for being misinformed versus the people who are actually misinformed. Who is harming the community more with how they're acting and reacting? You think the person that was simply given wrong information? It's likely due to the fact that most therianthropy content is short form content now, or other things. Or someone actively bullying someone, harassing someone, making videos, and doing so much other stuff to bully and ridicule this person for simply being misinformed. You are the one giving the community a bad representation because it's a community that's supposed to be welcoming, supposed to be informational, to expand. What do you think makes other people think when you start reacting this way to someone who's just misinformed? It's not gonna be a good look. And as I said at the beginning of the video, this starts to, when you start harassing people for being misinformed and trying to get rid of them, quote unquote, people are less willing to actually explore their identities in fear of being fake claimed, burnt upon a stake. If they were ever wrong about one slight thing, maybe if their stereotype was actually missing an inch of fur on its side legs or back legs, I don't know. You've probably noticed that most of these misinformed people are also really young, which makes it worse to be harassing them. But in general, nobody should be harassed anyway for such an issue like this. And the reason why so much younger people are more misinformed is due to the short form content in our community and how there's a lack of actual informational content nowadays. I do have a video also addressing this. But you might be wondering why I keep mentioning this, but you might realize that this is actually a big portion to why people are misinformed. My other video expands a lot more on that. So if you do want to comment about the short form problem aspect of it, I recommend you seeing that video first and then making your decision to comment on it or whether or not, because I have a lot more to say than just this. I think this is also represents the issue with short form content in a way, it's just a little analogy because of the fact that I'm not actually expanding on what I'm saying, but It's not that funny, bro. Give the misinformed people some terminology they can look forward into instead, because simply, these people are just people who want to explore themselves. And I bet you money that these people are usually bullied out of the norm, try to seek comfort in a community that's also bullied out of the mainstream. But when people turn around to ridicule them for exploring themselves and trying to find a place that they're more comfortable in, that's what's also making it not a safe space for people to even explore themselves. We should encourage people to explore themselves, acknowledge they were wrong, and try and figure out labels for themselves. It's okay to be wrong and realize you were using the wrong label and you found one that actually fits you better. That's the whole point of finding yourself in a self-proclaimed identity. It's your journey to discover, your journey to make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. Blah blah blah, I keep mentioning the same point because it keeps having to be brought up, but this is why people are so scared of being misinformed or fake claimed that they're not willing to do any more research in fear of being prosecuted for it. So if they're wrong on this one thing, then they will be harassed for it. Even if we're supposed to encourage people to explore their identities because it's a literal umbrella term for alterhumanity for this type of thing. So these people who are doing the harassing don't even want to inform these people, which makes the issue more worse because you're not actually helping anybody. If you fake claim someone and refuse to tell them why they were wrong and how, like, what terminology they should look for, tell them how to look for better sources, you aren't doing anything or helping anyone. You're not actually contributing. How do you think this person will feel after you say that they're not allowed to be misinformed like this? And you refuse to actually tell them about it. It's basically, all in all, hypocritical. Of course, nobody's obligated to give you information about it, but you can also suggest sources instead of immediately going to the person and fake claiming them. And especially not to let them know why they were wrong is even worse.
Well, you don't wear your mask over your mouth correctly, so I've noticed that you're not a real therian.
And most of the people fake claiming are just as misinformed as the person they're fake claiming, but they don't realize it because they think they're better, or they're misinformed in the different fundamentals of therianthropy. I kid you not, most of the people who fake claim are most likely people who also ridicule physical therians and saying they're not real as well. Also probably say, we know we're human, every time they try to discuss what therianthropy is to a normie, or essentially anything like that, because they don't want to be shamed by an outside community, but who cares? Therianthropy is weird. I also have a video explaining this. Therianthropy has always been weird, and you shouldn't exclude people for having more weirder identities than you. They aren't harming our representation because therianthropy is weird. Don't try and fix the label for other people when they won't accept you anyway. And what do you do when you see a fake claimer? Just don't do anything. Like, not what I mean, but it's just like, don't harass them, don't bully them, or whatever, just because they are doing this. Simply inform them why this is harmful, or just show them this video. If you begin to bully them for fake claiming when they don't realize that that's also wrong, then the cycle just continues. And then what do you do if you see someone who's misinformed? Simply don't harass them, don't bully them, don't call them out for being fake or whatever. Just politely inform them, hey, you were misinformed. And then just correct them on the information they're probably wrong about. Give them a few sources to go along with that too. Obviously, you're not obligated to inform them or be the one to inform them, but don't go out of your way to harass them either. A lot of fake claimers don't even realize what they're doing could be considered harassment. And then what do you do if they don't listen? I'm just gonna quote something from Daring Territory's video because I also saw it. I saw that video when I was making this video. So yeah. But as they said, simply let it go. To quote, you've done all you could do, basically. But now you actually realize that they're actually making the choice to pretend. They are simply being ignorant on the information you're giving them and refusing to acknowledge what you're saying. And this is a faker. But this still doesn't give you the right to harass people. You did get your share. Anyway, Sorry if this video seemed a little bit like if I was angry. I'm not really angry at anybody in particular. I'm just angry at fake claiming as a whole. This video is in no way targeted, and if you see someone fake claiming, don't harass them as well. You could send this video or videos alike to inform them why it's harmful to fake claim. Anyway, thank you for watching and goodbye.